All right, so the Navigating Life Empowerment class actually started in 2020. It was a result of the global pandemic. And I was head of women's ministry at the time at my local church. And this was our response to supporting and continuing to empower women who would be navigating a challenging season of life. I am pleased to share we are now in our sixth year. Oh my God. Good. We are now in our sixth year of the Navigating Life empowerment class. And really, one of the things that I love, why I keep on coming back time and time again to continue to host this platform, this forum, is because I get the opportunity to meet amazing women. Some of you are on the line. Some of you will know about the Navigating Life empowerment anthologies, and I've been sharing the stories of the anthologies to more and more people around the collection of stories that women have written about health, grief, and loss, about mindset, identity, and relationships, about motherhood, change, and emotional roller coasters. If you haven't had a chance to tap into or make a purchase of any of those Navigating Life anthologies, they are all available on Amazon. I am pleased to say that during each of those book launches, every single one of those books made it to Amazon #1 bestseller. And of course, we are super pleased and super proud about that achievement. But what it really speaks to is the fact that so many of us are all navigating life. If you are navigating life, if you are navigating a challenging situation, just type a number 4 in the chat box. If you are navigating a challenging season and a different complexity of life, if there is something in your space that you are having to navigate right now, just type a number 4 in the chat box. Let me see you. Yes, yes, yes. I see you. I see you. I see you. Yep, yep, yep. I see you. I see you. I see you. All right. And this is really great. And it really speaks to what we're going to be exploring today and the conversation that I really want us to have today. So if you haven't already got your notebooks, if you haven't already got your pens or device to take some notes, please do make sure you get that, because you're going to need that today. I want to introduce you to a couple of new concepts, and I want to be able to share with you something that will help you for the rest of the coming weeks ahead. All right, so in today's session, we are going to be talking about ascending. We are going to be talking about ascending. We're going to be talking about ascending and what that looks like, and why this is important, and the reason why we're going to be having this particular conversation now, the reason why we're going to be talking about ascending in this particular epoch of time is because life is changing before our very eyes, whether we like it or not, whether you believe it to be true or not, whether you think the things that you are seeing on the global stage, whether you believe they are impacting you or not. Life is making some shifts. And I believe that it is in all of our interests. I believe it is in all of our interests to make sure that we position ourselves to ascend. I want you just to write that word ascend in the chat box. Write the word ascend in the chat box. And when we talk about ascend, we're talking about your ability to rise. We're talking about your ability to climb. We're talking about your ability to soar, to fly, to move, to go up to the next level. I want you to think about, what does the next level mean for you, wherever you are in life. I was teaching a leadership training session earlier on this week, and I was sharing with the with the group. It was for a church leadership team. I was sharing with them that for as much as you are called to leadership in the church, there are different levels of leadership in the society that you live in. You could be called to church leadership. You could be called to community leadership. You could be called to city or country leadership. My 4 C's that I like to refer to: church, community, city, or country. And each one of those levels of leadership has a requirement on you and has a calling on you in how you move through that space. So when we think about ascend, we're thinking about your ability to rise, your ability to increase. Where are you increasing to? What arena are you increasing in? Ascend also speaks about your ability to grow. It speaks about upsurge. It speaks about enlargement. And if we're talking about enlargement for 2026, then there is also a demand on your ability to intensify your output, intensify your ability to move through the ranks of where you are. What is it that you are looking for 2026? When you're saying, Lord, bless me indeed, what are you asking God to do? I'm praying and asking God to escalate my output, escalate my ability to move, escalate my increase, escalate the movement that I am making in the different spaces that I am called to. Ascend means different things to different people, but I want you to grasp what that means to you today. And as we move through today's agenda, we're going to do a couple of things. I asked you already earlier on in your breakout rooms to review your January. What did January 2026 look like? Hopefully you've done that and you're able to really think about what that looks like for you. We're going to be talking about changing your appetite. We're going to be looking at changing your appetite. And then I'm going to introduce you to the BANI, BANI framework. It's a new framework. Well, it's not, it came out in 2018, and it's really the big brother of VUCA. Many of you may have heard me talk about the VUCA environment. We're going to be talking about the BANI framework. And more importantly, we're going to be looking at the solution, because this is a solution focused place. We come here because we are bringing, or I'm presenting solutions to you of how you can navigate challenging seasons of life. And then we're going to be looking at strategic planning and three concepts that I want you to lean into, as we speak about how we move through life and how we move through this particular season. And then lastly, I have a declaration that I want you to lean into and that we're going to look at today. So hold on to your hats. If you haven't done so already, I want you to take a screenshot of what you can see on your screen right now. A cat that wants to become a lion must lose its appetite for mice. Now, how many of you have big dreams, big goals, big plans, big ideas, and big concepts, but you are still playing the small game? How many of you have made big plans for 2026? Just type a number 5 in the chat box. You've made amazing plans for 2026. You've got some big dreams, big visions. You've got lots of ideas, lots of concepts that you're leaning into, lots of things that you're saying that you're asking God to bless you. There are things that you've prayed for. There are things that you are dreaming about. There are things that you said, look, 2026 will not be the same as 2025. It's a new season. It's a new day. Most of you are members of different churches. You've done different fasting sessions. You've asked God to strengthen your heart, your mind. You've asked God to position you for purpose. You've asked God to do all the things that you know that God can do. But the challenge is you're still playing a small game. Michelle said this earlier on when she was sharing about her wins for January. She spoke about not being distracted. And she also spoke about somebody asking for her price and not being afraid to charge what she is worth. Somebody's going to ask you for your price, and it's your responsibility to not be afraid to charge what you know you are worth. If you are a coach, if you are a consultant, if you are doing work in your side hustle, your side business, your side quest, whatever it is that you are doing, you can't be afraid to charge the amount that you are worth. And the reason why this is important is because if you want to play a bigger game, I know there are some lionesses on the line. Those lionesses must lose their appetite for mice. Now, mice in this instance is the small thing. What are the small things? What is the small thing that you are holding on to? What is the small thing in 2026 that you have to be determined to let go of? What small thing do you have to say to yourself, listen, I'm not holding on to this thing anymore. I held on to small things for too long in 2025. I held on to small things for too long in 2025, and I am not going to do it in 2026. Who said in 2026 you're going to increase your income? Just type a number six in the chat box. Who said in 2026 you're going to increase your experiences? Just type a six in the chat box. Who said in 2026 you're going to laugh more? You're going to celebrate more? Who in 2026 said we're going to pray more? We're going to develop our spiritual gifts. We're going to develop the fruit of the spirit in our lives so that it could be made more manifest in our lives. Who said in 2026 I'm going to spend more time with my family? Who in 2026 said they're going to increase their business outcomes? In order for all of those things to happen, you would have needed to change your appetite. Who has done something new, something different, something that stretches your capacity for more? Write this statement down, because I want you to think about this as you progress through the coming week. A cat that wants to become a lion must lose its appetite for mice. The mice represents the small thing. What is the small thing that you need to shift right now? I want to introduce you to the BANI framework. The BANI framework is a term coined by a futurist by the name of Jamias Cassio. Jamias Cassio. He coined the term in 2018, and it's a new lens for understanding the fractured, unpredictable state of the modern world. You may have heard in previous sessions, you may have heard me speak about the VUCA environment, or the VUCA framework, VUCA, which stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. You may have heard me speak about this in previous sessions. But today I want to introduce you to a brand new concept coined by Jamias Cassio, the BANI framework. And the reason why this is important is because it teaches us how we can navigate chaos. I know that many of us are navigating highs and lows, and that's why I shared with you earlier on about the Navigating Life anthologies around health, grief and loss, mindset, identity and relationships, motherhood, change, and emotional roller coasters. We are navigating loss. And one of the reasons why I was really interested in this particular concept coined by Jamias is because he's a foresight specialist. Let's call him that. So you may have heard the term futurist. A futurist is somebody who looks at the future. They are architects or creators of the future, and they look at the different arenas or different platforms that we find ourselves in and help us to better understand how we navigate those scenarios, or how we navigate those frameworks, and how we navigate those frameworks, but more importantly, how do we respond? How do we position ourselves in those particular spaces? So what I want you to understand is, for those of you who are navigating life, I want to talk to somebody today who is navigating a challenging season, because I want to give you language to help you better understand what the navigating of chaos looks like. But more importantly, I want to give you the solution of how you move through that space. So the B of the BANI framework, stands for brittle. Everybody just type the word brittle in the chat box. Everybody just type the word brittle in the chat box. Everyone just type the word brittle in the chat box. When we talk about brittle, what we're really referring to is the system, the structure, in some cases, the supply chains that we depend on. And it helps us to realize how shockingly fragile those systems are. The world as we know it is not just volatile, it's brittle. It's almost like an old dry bone, if you like. It looks like it's strong, but one crack and it shatters. Are there any frameworks, systems, structures in your life, your emotions, for example, that sometimes we can feel strong, we can act strong, we can position ourselves as strong women of God, but one thing happens and our entire world comes crashing down? For those of you who are experiencing burnout, for those of you who are running at 157 miles per hour, for those of you who are all things to all people, it takes just one thing to shift have you ever heard of the saying that says the straw that broke the camel's back? Everybody understands that the camel's back or the camel's hump can take a heavy weight. It was built to carry heavy weight, but then you put a straw on that camel's back and now it breaks. It wasn't because of the straw, it was because of all the other weight that was placed on the camel before. Some of you are navigating structures, systems, and if you're in workplaces or you're in your own business communities, your own ecosystems, you are navigating supply chains that are brittle. And all it takes is for one thing to happen and the entire system, the entire structure breaks. It's a little bit like what we can see right now in the world. For those of you who are keeping up with global events and global systems, you can see that there is an abrupt disruption. Jeremiah's called this an abrupt disruption. The pandemic, for example, caused an abrupt disruption. Nobody was prepared for it. That's why the world had to go into lockdown. If we were prepared, we could have carried on as normal. You can see how brittle in some countries their democracies are. One thing shifts, a new president is elected. One thing shifts, and the entire system descends into chaos because of the fragility of the system. I'm asking you today, I'm inviting you today to look at your own system, your own structure that navigates your own life, and understand, where is my system brittle or where is that system fragile? The A of Bani stands for anxiety. Everybody just type the word anxiety in the chat box. And when we talk about anxiety, we're kind of talking about that low grade, always on anxiety of today's world. It's on another level. I was listening to a lecture, especially with some young people, and they were talking, Gen Zs, and they were talking about how there are no good choices. They were talking about the state of hopelessness that they feel. They were talking about the anger and the depression that they are experiencing, and the fact that they just couldn't see a future. And it almost seemed really quite morbid, if I'm honest. And when I think about this, for those of you who consume social media, every time I turn on the news or I look at Instagram or I look at LinkedIn or I look at Facebook, every news cycle has some disastrous information. There are climate disasters, there's political vitriol, there's mass shootings, there's scandal. The trust between people is slowly being eroded. Will I get laid off? Will I have a job next week? Will my business survive the next recession? All of these complexities are causing the level of anxiety. And for as much as it was interesting to hear young people speaking about this, I think the same is also true for baby boomers, for women who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s. I think the same is also true. The level of anxiety presents itself in a slightly different way. What choices do I have now at this age and stage of life? Where is the hope at this age and stage of life? If I have to navigate this particular season of anxiety, if I can't see a future, what do I need to put in place in order to make this happen? Jeremiah speaks about the level of anxiety that the world is experiencing right now. The N stands for non-linear. Just type non-linear in the chat box. Type the word non-linear in the chat box. What's really interesting about non-linear is this, that one event eventually triggers other events that are completely unforeseen. Everything is not a step-by-step process. And what I mean by that, let me explain. Um, There are radical changes in life. There are radical changes that can impact your situation. There are radical circumstances that will knock your process or your progress off the charts. You're going a particular direction, you're navigating your life, you're doing the best that you can. You've got everything set out in the way that you think that it should go, but life is not linear. How many of you know that life is not linear? Experience teaches us. Experience tells you that life is not linear. Things do not always go according to plan. It isn't always step one, step two, step three, step four, step five. For those of you who ever had to navigate any type of health challenge, you're speaking to me, I'm speaking to you. In 2019, I had a life-altering cancer diagnosis. It was not expected. Who prepares for health? It was not expected. It was a non-linear event that happened in my life. Many of you have experienced your own non-linear life events. I didn't expect this to happen. I didn't expect that I wouldn't be married at this age. I didn't expect to have a baby when I did. I didn't expect my health would take a certain turn. I didn't expect to lose my family. I didn't expect to lose my money. I didn't expect to lose my mind. I didn't expect to lose my friend. I didn't expect to lose that thing that I'm holding so close to me. I didn't expect to lose my job. It's a non-linear situation. Small things have a big effect or a big impact, a big change in your life. It's non-linear. And the sooner or the more we become familiar with the non-linear aspect of life, then the more we are better able to understand what Bani means and what Bani looks like for us. The I stands for incomprehensible. I want you to type this down, write this in the chat box. Write the word incomprehensible in the chat box. The I of Bani stands for incomprehensible. And what do I mean by this? How many of you have seen things happen in your own life that you could say to yourself, why did this happen? Why did this happen to me? I've organized myself, I prayed, I fasted, I didn't see this coming. This is senseless. This is unthinkable. How many times have you had scenarios in your life, situations in your life, and you just didn't see it coming? If I knew sickness was coming, I would have organized myself differently. If I knew that I wasn't going to have a job, I would have organized myself differently. If I knew this particular situation was going to impact me in this way, I would have positioned myself differently. Sometimes senseless things happen. We look at the news, we look at social media and see senseless activities happening. How many have been, well, I've been consumed by the Epstein files. Like, how on earth has this been allowed to happen in 2026? It's incomprehensible. And the reason why I wanted to share this concept with you is because as I was navigating this space, it kind of gave me some understanding of how we navigate chaos. How do we manage the season of life where we are right now? How do we ensure that where we are right now gives us time, it gives us understanding, it gives us opportunity to really sit in where we are, but more than just sitting where we are, we have to develop solutions. We've got to be able to position ourselves to develop a solution. And one of the reasons why I really enjoyed learning about this particular framework, the Bani framework, is because Jemias gives us an antidote for that. In the same way that we have an antidote for the VUCA environment, volatility requires vision. In the same way that we look at ambiguity requiring agility and uncertainty requiring understanding, in the same way that we have an antidote for VUCA, we also have an antidote or a level of understanding for our real world experiences. And one of the things I want you to think about as we think about solutions, then, if my world is brittle, if my world is navigating unstable systems or structures or supply chains, for those of you who are in business, then what do I need to do to combat that brittleness of the situation or that brittleness of the platform? That then means I need to become more resilient. I need to be bendable. I'm trying to give you an acronym so that you can remember. The opposite or the positive of brittle would be bendable. How do I need to ensure that, and bendable requires you to be flexible, right? It requires you to be resilient. What does that look like? What does resilience look like? What does being bendable look like in my space, in my epoch, in my environment, wherever I am? The antidote then for anxiety or anxiousness would be acceptance. Sometimes we just have to accept what's happening. But in that acceptance, there is a requirement for me to understand what next needs to look like. I might have to accept it. This is the way how things are. I might have to accept that I no longer have a job, or accept that I no longer have a business, or accept that this is the way how the situation is going to be, accept that this is a circumstance that I am leaning into, that then I need to come up with a solution. The N for nonlinear is neuroplasticity, if I can say the word, neuroplasticity. And it's really about your ability, neuroplasticity. And it's really about your ability to improve your thinking. It's about your ability to improvise and create new neurological pathways for your brain to come up with something new, something different, something that potentially you might not have thought of before. I remember a couple of years ago, I think it was when my daughter was at university actually, she challenged our household to practice brushing your teeth with your opposite hand. So if you're right-handed, practice brushing your teeth with your left hand. If you're left-handed, practice brushing your teeth with your right hand. And as simple as the challenge was, as simple as the task was, it took me a while to kind of get my rhythm and get my hand in motion for learning to brush my teeth my whole life. I'm 50. But think about that. And I want you to challenge yourself this week for just practice brushing your teeth with your other hand and see what it does to your mind. See what it does to the way how you move. It would almost be the same as you practicing writing your name with your other hand. For those of you who are right-handed, have you ever tried writing your name with your left hand? Of course, you know how to form letters. I know how to form letters, Claudine. That's how I spell my name. But when I write my name with my left hand, I kind of have to lean in a bit more and think differently about how I form that C. And when you get to forming that E, my brain has to kind of think like, oh my goodness, it feels like I'm doing quantum physics. But the more you practice it, the more you brush your teeth with your opposite hand, the more you practice writing with your opposite hand, what you're doing is creating new neurological pathways. You are creating new ways of thinking. You are creating new ways of doing. You are creating new ways of doing things. And this is one of the ways how you bring solutions into your space. I want you to think outside of the building. I want you to think outside of the confines of your imagination. And then Jemiah says, for incomprehensible, you need inclusivity. Inclusivity is the antidote for incomprehensible. And when we talk about inclusivity, we're talking about the diversity of perspectives, the diversity of ideas. I wrote on a LinkedIn post earlier on I shared a concept about perspective. I'm in Jamaica at the moment, and I've heard a couple of people, well, we're experiencing a cold front. And my driver, he said to me, it's cold here today. It was 18 degrees. And in my head, I'm like, We would be quite happy if it was 18 degrees in the UK. We would be really happy. But look at the way how different perspectives of different environments interprets the same information. 18 degrees in the UK is classed as cold. 18 degrees in another environment could be classed as we're actually okay with this type of weather. In another climate, this is good. And so perspective is really important for your ability to have diversity and diverse ideas and diverse solutions. That's why that's important, because diverse people, diverse perspectives brings diverse solutions. And here's what I learned. Sometimes we are just asking the wrong people. Sometimes we're talking to the wrong people. Sometimes we're surrounding ourselves with the wrong people. Sometimes we're in the wrong types of spaces in order to get the ideas or the solutions that we are looking for. So here's the thing that I want you to think about. I want you to think about the solution that you bring. And we cannot sit here and die. We are in 2026. And what I mean by this is that some of you are experiencing challenging situations, challenging circumstances, and 2026 is not the year to be still. The solution for the Bani environment, the solution for the challenges that you are navigating is to develop your clarity and moderate your certainty. This is what the framework is encouraging us to lean into. Develop your clarity of thought, develop the clarity of your mind, develop the clarity of the system structures and frameworks that you are leaning into, but moderate your certainty. And the reason why this is important is because the future is uncertain. The future is uncertain. We don't know what tomorrow holds. We don't know what next week holds. We don't know what next month or next year holds. But we must move. I want you just to type that in the chat box for me. We must move. Type we must move in the chat box. We must move. I must move. I sit and look at our respective situations, our respective circumstances, and look at the way how we are navigating life. We cannot stay the same. I cannot stay the same. 2026 will not find me sitting in the same position as 2025. I've got to step up and step out. I've got to broaden my thinking. I've got to become more resilient, more bendable. I've got to understand that certain situations are going to come with an amount of anxiety, but I'm going to accept the anxiety, but I'm also going to lean into the solution. I'm not going to shy away from hard things. I'm going to practice creating new muscle memory. I'm going to practice creating new neurons that I can become a better version of who I am. Every morning that I'm here in Jamaica, for those of you who follow me on Instagram, I share my rooftop workout. This is me getting fit at 50, practicing my taekwondo moves. So by the time I come back, I will be in line with the rest of my class, but I am creating new neurological pathways. Those same neurological pathways are transferable. I can use them in any area of life. This is not just for my well-being. I can transfer those neurological pathways in my business, in my finances, in my faith, in my family, in my fun, in my fulfillment. All of those things are interchangeable. They are interchangeable. I can use that new learning the same way how you learn to write with your other hand, the same way how you learn to brush your teeth with your other hand, not your usual hand that you normally use, is one of the ways how you bring solutions, how you bring clarity, how you're able to navigate uncertainty because you're creating a new pathway, a new way of thinking. Now, one of the things that are really important is that Bani demands that leaders build resilience. Bani demands that you build lower anxiety, that you embrace non-linearity. It demands that you act decisively amid incomprehensibility. That is called scenario planning. Scenario planning is not about being so tough that nothing can hurt you. It's about recognizing and being able to adapt to changes as they happen. It's about recognizing and being able to adapt to changes as they happen. And that's one of the ways how I've been able to navigate life. I use my strategic planning workbook. I use the concept of strategic planning to support my thinking, to support my future focused thinking so that I can step into 2026. I can step into 2027. I can step into 2028. I can step into 2029 with confidence and with a surety. I might not know what the outcome is going to look like. I might not know what tomorrow is going to hold, but I'm going to move with certainty. I'm going to move with I'm going to move with a developed sense of clarity. This is important, especially for those of you who are of a certain age. For those of you, it's now time to level up in your ability to move with confidence, with courage, and with clarity. Let me say that again. For those of you who are in your 40s, your 50s, and dare I say 60s, it's time for you to move with confidence, courage, and clarity about the next epoch of time, about this next season of your life. And one of the ways how I want you, one of the things I want you to lean into is your authority. Just type the word authority in the chat box. I want you this season to lean into your authority. What is stopping you from accelerating at the pace that you need to accelerate at? What is stopping you? I want you to recognize what you carry. Some of you are subject matter experts. Some of you are expertise, you have expertise in your chosen field. You are developing ideas, you are developing concepts, you are developing coaching frameworks, you are developing platforms, you are doing it for your employer, but you are not doing it for yourself. And what I realized as I was preparing for today's session, as I was preparing to remind you to ascend, is that some of you lack authority. Some of you don't believe the authority that you carry. Some of you do not fully understand the fact that you are a subject matter expert. Some of you have not yet reconciled or given yourself permission to be free to walk in your authority. We say it all the time. I can do all things through Christ. He is my strength, but we don't act it out. This season, I want you to walk in your authority. If you are determined to walk in your authority, just type a number 7 in the chat box. Just type a number 7 in the chat box. If you are determined this season to walk in your authority. The next thing I want you to think about is your courage. I've put a ladder here because I believe that courage is like a muscle. And the more you exercise your courage, the more you do hard things, you become more courageous. I remind myself every morning that I am courageous, Claudine. And when I remind myself that I am courageous, something shifts in my mind. Something shifts about the way how I think about myself. Something shifts about the way how I move. In this season, I want some of you to step up that ladder of courage. I want you to look at the week that's ahead of you. I want you to look at that week that's ahead of you, and that thing that is scaring you out of your wits, that thing that is petrifying you, that thing that is causing you to be afraid, Lorna, that thing that is saying to you, look, Valerie, look, Maureen, no, don't do this. Look, Cheryl, no, Beatrice, don't do it. I want you to do it. I want you to lean into it. Some of you have got emails to send, you've got phone calls to make, you've got people to speak to, you've got finances to review. The thing that is stopping you from making that decision, I want you to make that courageous decision, that courageous choice to say, you know what? I'm going to do it. You know what? I'm not going to allow fear to hold me incarcerated anymore. I am not going to sit on the fence about this issue. I'm going to amplify my voice and I am going to do it. If you're going to do it this week, just type a number 9 in the chat box. If you are going to level up on your courage this week, just type a number 9 in the chat box. The other thing that I realized, and I was in conversation with somebody earlier on this week about some of the things that are holding us back. And we kind of concluded that one of the things that were holding us back is our identity, the way how we see ourselves. Maybe I don't see myself as strong. Maybe I don't see myself as unique. Maybe I don't see myself as courageous. Maybe I don't see myself as a leader. Maybe I don't see myself as audacious or innovative or creative. I want you to get clear on who God said that you are. I want you to get clear on what God is calling you to do. I want you to think about this. And I've asked time and time again for different women and different people to create in the same way that I've created an acronym for my name, how I refer to myself as Courageous Claudine. I want you to create that acronym for your own name. Maybe you are Victorious Valerie. Maybe you are Ambitious Anna. Maybe you are Marvelous Motivated Maureen. Maybe you are the leadership Lorna. Whatever acronym you create for your name, I want you to lean into that this week. I want you to lean into your identity. Determined Donna, joyful Janet. Go on, just type them in the chat box. Let me see what they are. Just type the acronym for your name that describes who you are. I want you to lean into who you are this season. I want you to lean into what God has called you to be. I want you to lean into what you have called for yourself. And the reason why this is important, and this is the declaration that I want you to make today. I want you to think about what this means. I want you to think about what this looks like. I want you to recognize who you are, what God has called you to be, why this is important for you today. I want you to remind yourself of this. Let me share my screen. And I want you to write this in your notes. I am the priority. I want you to write that in the chat box. I want you to write it on your notepads. I am the priority. I told myself this as I was in preparation for today's session. I reminded myself, I am the priority. I'm the priority in my health. I'm the priority in my finances. I'm the priority in my family. I'm the priority in my fitness. I'm the priority for where my mindset is concerned. I am the priority because if I'm the priority, if I prioritize myself, then I can be a blessing in the kingdom. If I'm a priority, if I prioritize myself and all those things that are concerning me, as I prioritize my well-being, I can better serve my community. I can better serve those people who God has called me to serve, who God has called me to walk with, who God has called me to empower, who God has called me to sit with, who God has called me to listen, who God has called me alongside to help and to support, to empower and to enable. I want you to make a commitment to yourself this month. I want you to pay attention. Pay attention to what God is saying to you. I want you to take some more time to stop scrolling. It's a commitment that I've made to myself to minimize my scrolling time. I'm not saying that I'm not going to go on social media. I'm saying I'm going to minimize my time or take away more of that time so I can pay more attention. Pay more attention. And when I pay more attention, I can create more time for important things. When I pay more attention, I can strategize for the important things. I can use my workbook to prepare myself for the future that I want to have. I can use my workbook to prepare myself for the things that God is calling me to, and I can pay attention to attend and position myself for the things that I am called to. So in this season, if Banny demands more of you, before you can deliver that more, there's going to be a requirement to understand where you are, who am I in all of this? And one of the ways how you can make that happen is to make yourself the priority. Thank you so much for joining me on today's Navigating Life Empowerment Workshop. I hope this session has been empowering. I hope it has left you thinking how you are going to build your muscle of courage, build your muscle of resilience, build yourself so that you can navigate whatever chaos, whatever challenges 2026 presents to you.